All right. Hello everyone. I am Eleanor from Garfield Park Community Council. I'm going to start this presentation by providing some context. I just want to start by giving you a glimpse of the partnerships between the panelists before providing an overview about Garfield Park Community Council and the initiatives that we're focusing on. So if you just look at this title slide, you can see I have a picture all the way on the left with LaShawn and I. She had picked her collars, and I was picking them up to take them to a pantry. You can see in the middle Matthew, Rufi, and Raja. There is a wonder of the Save-A-Lot, the grocery store in the neighborhood, as well as a wonderful picture with Lori Children's and them honoring Angela. So I just wanted to start with that before we get into this session. So first, within this session, here is what our agenda will cover. We'll cover Garfield Park Community Council and then 3 different wellness initiatives: the Food Pantry Network, the Community Grocery Initiative, and the Grocery Network. Next, we'll provide introductions to share our connections to Garfield Park, and then we will go into a panel discussion about the work that's being done by the different individuals on this panel and go into Q&A. So first, what is GPCC? GPCC stands for Garfield Park Community Council. We are a community building organization that's dedicated residents and allies who work together to develop leaders and create opportunities and programs that help build the Garfield Park Community Council. So we will be focusing primarily on wellness initiatives today, but there are several departments within Garfield Park Community Council: housing, business, leadership, solar. So next I'm going to focus on the vision. The vision of Garfield Park Community Council is to become more attractive, healthy, vibrant, family-friendly community where the residents are empowered and engaged in sustainability of the community. And most importantly, the organizations here that are involved on the panel. We have Garfield Park Community Council represented, Finding Justice Garden represented, Lori Children's Hospital represented, as well as Link Up Illinois. So going into the different initiatives. First, I'm going to start with the Garden Network. And the goal really of this is to build and support green spaces and community gardens that produce local food for sale at the Garfield Park Neighborhood Market. The different roles that people play in this: the Garfield Park Community Council provides a contract. They also support with labor and infrastructure for the gardens as well as plants. The Garfield Park Conservatory is also part of this. You may have heard of them as a wonderful gem within the Garfield Park community. They supply plants and training to the growers in the garden network, as well as the gardens that provide produce to the community through the neighborhood market. And it truly is an exchange that we provide different infrastructure to the gardens so that they can do the best in growing what they have for the community. And here are a few photos of some of the different gardens. Every year we have a garden tour in August that showcases some of the gardens within our garden network. And when it comes to the next initiative I'm going to discuss, that will be the Community Grocer Initiative. This is a community-led effort that is really about bringing the community voice to light and allowing them an opportunity to share what type of food options they would like to see in their community. It being involved with the city as well as a grocer. These meetings occur on third Tuesdays of the month from 3 to 4 p.m. And the different roles within this are that GPCC really provides the space for as a virtual meeting for the community to convene. Westgate Development is also involved in this in working with the potential grocer and the real estate developer. And Link Up Illinois is also involved in this and working directly with Save a Lot. And the last initiative that is the newest of them all, which is been very exciting to be a part of, is the Food Pantry Network. This really has come to light as there was communication in the community that, oh, they were seeing that the pantries weren't communicating with one another. And this is really creating a space for the pantries to interact with one another and work together. They're not necessarily competing for in this neighborhood. They're really working together to meet a common goal of feeding the community. And these meetings are quarterly, and the different roles being played. Garfield Park Community Council is the convener in this situation, really providing the space again to bring pantries so they can share what they're experiencing. And Lurie Children's Hospital plays a very important part. Megan is a big part of that. And leading the strategy to what are we going to cover and talk about within this food pantry meeting to help the food pantries go away with something new that they can help do their job easier. We are not trying to add more to their job. We're trying to make it an easier lift. And the food pantry partners share the work. They identify the areas of collaboration and where they need support. Next, I'm going to transition into our panel. I will be the moderator. I'm Eleanor Cole, the Wellness Associate from Garfield Park Community Council. I've gotten into this work from just being passionate about food access and serving a community in need. Pass it off to Angela.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Taylor. I am the Wellness Director at the Garfield Park Community Council, as I have been here since its inception to the community. My passion into this work is to build a better community for us, by us. And I'll pass it off to Megan.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, still morning. So I'm Megan Hitchie. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as a program manager for the Food, Activity, and Nutrition Initiatives at Ann and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. A big focus for us is advancing nutrition security and community health on Chicago's Westside. So my connection to Garfield Park is rooted in partnership. We've been working alongside GPCC for some years now, and I've had the privilege of working a lot more with Angela and Eleanor here recently, and also incorporating Garfield Park residents and food pantry representatives and just creating an awesome space to partner. But everyone in that space is just deeply committed to transforming the neighborhood from a narrative of what's lacking in the food space into one of power and resilience and abundance, because there really are truly so many amazing resources that already exist in Garfield Park to support food and food access. So through collaborations with groups like GPCC, Experimental Station, and the Garfield Park Garden Network, my work really centers on strengthening local food systems, supporting community-driven research, and ensuring that hospitals and institutions show up as accountable partners and not just service providers when it comes to health and health equity. What keeps me grounded in this work is the belief that health doesn't start in the clinic. It really starts in our neighborhoods, our parks, our corner stores, and through our relationships. And our work in Garfield Park has taught me that solutions already exist in community. Our role as an institution, is a healthcare institution, is to listen, invest, and help shift the systems to reflect that wisdom and lived experience. So thank you so much for opening your space to me today. Super excited to be here, and I will pass it over to Matthew Ruffy.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. As you said, my name is Matthew Ruffy. I sort of half jokingly call myself a recovering corporate guy. So after more than about 20 years in business, including like global COO roles and stuff in ad tech, I realized the corporate world was missing something essential for me. And really that was that genuine connection to food and community. We had the pleasure of living in London, and London was really what brought me back, right? I rediscovered that value of community and food and being tied to people in place. And it was something that I really hadn't felt so strongly since I was growing up in Michigan. In London, like you'd walk down the high street, the main street there, and quite literally, I would get my name yelled out by a butcher or a grocer or a farmer we knew to tell me something cool that they had that they thought I would like. And we would eat together and would talk together. I knew my neighbors, I knew my food, and it felt so good. So in 2019, my partner Kate and I came back to the Midwest. Someone tell me if I get a turtle emoji. We're supposed to slow down. As you all know, I talk too fast. Sorry, interpreters. We came back to the Midwest in 2019, and we're really looking for that. And so I'm really, really lucky and excited to be able to contribute to the food system in more ways than that. So she and I started and continue to run the Uptown Farmers Market in Chicago. We're now heading into our 6th season, something that Angela was so kind to give me so much time and so much information to help me be better at. I served as the board president for a Chicago co-op grocery store that's helping to revive it when it looked like it might not be moving forward. Spoke at some conferences, and that's what brought me to Link Up Illinois. And I'm really proud since 2023 to have led the Illinois Link Match program. That's a SNAP matching program that connects people eligible for nutrition benefits with fresh, locally grown food at farmers markets and brick and mortar stores statewide. Last year, we did about $2.2 million. That's $2.2 million in fresh fruits and vegetables that are in the hands of Illinoisans that need it the most. Again, though, really it's driven by community, and it's that passion that comes alive when you get to coordinate with people like who's on this panel and groups like Garfield Park Community Council. They just have that care for community woven right into their DNA. I tell my wife all the time that they're like my karmic recharge. When I get to meet with this group or when we get to talk about this panel, it brings me up. It gets me motivated, and it brings me back to what I really wanted to do in that community building piece. And so I was so honored when Eleanor reached out to ask if I would be a part of this, because I think I get imposter syndrome sometimes sitting around people as great as who's on this panel, but also who's in the room. And so thank you all for having us here. Really excited to talk to you more about what Garfield Park Community Council has done for their community and what programs like this are doing, all across the state too. So with that, I'll pass it over to LaShawn.
Thank you, Matthew. Good morning, everyone. My name is LaShawn Miller. I'm an urban farmer on Chicago's Westside and the founder of Finding Justice, a flower and vegetable garden. I'm also honored to be here today as part of the Garfield Park Garden Network and to join this conversation at a time when communities across the city are actively reclaiming food, land, and power. My work began from a very personal place, recognizing the connection between food, health, and access in my own life and in my neighborhood. Over time, the awareness grew into commitment to not only grow fresh food, but to help build the systems that allow our communities to thrive. Through farming, community engagement, and food distribution, I've seen how land can become a space for healing, leadership, and opportunity when it is stewarded collectively. What makes the Garfield Park Garden Network so powerful is that it reflects the theme of this year's summit. We build this table together. The network brings together growers, residents, organizers, and institutions who understand that no single organization can solve food access challenges alone. Through shared leadership, mutual aid, and hands on stewardship of land and food resources, we are creating pathways to communities to strengthen their own resilience. I'm happy to be a part of this session that highlights how the Garfield Park Community Council's Food Pantry Network, Garden Network, and emerging community emerging community grocery initiatives are working together to move food more intentionally and equitably through our neighborhoods by centering local growers, wellness practitioners, program leaders, and food system partners. We are demonstrating what it looks like when communities build power by building systems together. I'm excited to share more about our collective work and to learn from each other and from you as we continue shaping a more just and regenerative food future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I mean, you heard everyone's intros. I couldn't introduce them. They all had wonderful things to share and wonderful stories and passion that is deep rooted. And so that leads us really into our panel where we're going to have some small discussions in terms of dividing up the different initiatives. So we're going to start with talking about the Food Pantry Network. So, Angela and Megan, what led you to create the Food Pantry Network and what got you interested in being involved in this network?
You want to go first, Megan?
Sure. All right. So, well, emergency food really has my heart. We support a lot of food access initiatives here on the food activity and nutrition team. But I have been involved in emergency food for some time. Our emergency food providers, so these are our food pantries, our free hot meal programs for those that maybe aren't as familiar with the lingo. But they're usually providing much more than food access, right? Like the food access is important, but many of the locations of food pantries are also churches, right? Giving shoppers and patrons the opportunity to connect in community and with their spirituality while accessing foods. Beyond that, they also connect folks to a lot of wraparound services that a person or family might need, like housing, employment support, insurance and SNAP enrollment, and so much more. So we really wanted to bring this group together in order to share resources. It's really important to support our food pantries, our emergency food providers, as they are often the backbone of food access in community. Our pantries are awesome. They do so much work on such a limited budget with often, being fully supported by volunteers. Uh, the amount of food that they put out on, with such like limited capacity is super impressive. It's honestly a model that should be replicated. But because time is limited and things like that, it can be tricky to partner, right? To find that time to come together when you're already out there doing the work, right? You're spending all your time doing the work, so it can be hard to find time to collaborate. So I think one of the key goals of this group is really to help lift that burden off of our pantry partners and provide some resources and stipends in order for them to engage in this space and make the time to participate, but also to, talk about their amazing assets and the things that they're doing well and share those resources with one another. our pantry partners are often encountering, similar challenges and barriers in the community. And some have really great solutions that they're already implementing that can help address those barriers. So being able to come together in a space and share those resources so that we can have a coordinated community effort. It increases our impact. It builds a stronger food system within Garfield Park because we're also, of course, talking about beyond pantries. How do we partner with gardens on food rescue, right? How do we partner with local food retailers as well? So it really helps build the entire food system in Garfield Park, which I'm really excited about.
Well, I would add to that, Megan, the great appreciation that I have for community partners like the Food Activity Nutrition Program that helped us as a council to bring the food pantries together. And what we discovered in that arena is that there was not much communication going from pantry to pantry. Now, I don't know if anybody has ever volunteered at a food pantry, know that the great volume of work that they do, as Megan said, under considerably constraints. We, as the community council here in Garfield Park, always want to lend our hands to lift up and amplify things specifically in the food arena. Here we believe that if people were able to have access to eat better, they would think better and they would do better. So if we realizing that it is an opportunity to collect the residents in the community to the pantries in the community by connecting the pantries, we and having a conversation with the food pantries and the lack of communication that they had, we felt that we would establish and build this network where then those pantries now have a pipeline, if it's only through us having the opportunity to move from pantry to pantry to assist to make sure that all the residents get the best opportunity to receive the best available food at each pantry that they go to. One pantry gets a lot of buns and the other one gets a lot of meat. How do we try to equalize that? We feel here at Garfield Park Community Council that we could play a role by potentially taking some products from one pantry to the other pantry and back to the other pantry so the experience that the residents have here in our community and hoping that we're aligning a model that can transcend into other community to ensure again that the residents that are at the forefront of us doing any work that we're doing, we're not moving in this work for the benefit of ourselves, but for the betterment of our community. Back to you, Eleanor.
Yes, and I know you both have deep backgrounds related to food access. So, how have you utilized your other experiences with the creation of the food pantry network in Garfield Park?
I feel that we have created a direct connection between our garden network and the food pantries. We host our neighborhood market twice a month, and we have 10 to 12 community gardens that are producing profound and beautiful produce. You can't get any better, fresher than the hyper local produce that we sell at our neighborhood market. It's picked only one day before it becomes available for the residents to be able to come in and shop and use whatever form of currency to purchase and receive the items that we have. We have now made the connection that that surplus that we have can now be funneled into the food pantries to make its way into the shopping bags of residents that do not have the resources to come and shop at the market, but still will receive the benefit of having that hyper local, super fresh produce to bring to their families' tables.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. I love what you're saying about, working in collaboration and the hyper local piece, right? Keeping dollars in community and keeping food in community whenever possible, I think is wonderful. Personally, I've been working on food access. I don't want to age myself too much, but for 15 years, I have a background in dietetics and public health. So I started my career working for Women, Infants, and Children, which is a federal food program. I've worked for larger health institutions like UIC and now Lurie Children's, and but I also spent about 5 years working for a very small nonprofit on the West Side called the West Humboldt Park Development Corporation, and that's where I first found my passion for emergency food. Back then, back in I think it was 2014, I was supporting Turkey Chop's free hot meal program. And at that time, I was introduced to the Greater Chicago Food Depository, who is a wonderful support partner for Chicago-based food pantries. Now, not every food pantry in Chicago partners with the Greater Chicago Food Depository, but many do, and they are just a wonderful resource. I quickly became co-chair of the Northwest Food Partners Network at that time, which was run by La Casa Norte. So very similar to this coalition, bringing pantries together to share resources, to share learnings. We did like fundraising activities, training and educations, and things like that. I also, since then, have had a hand in supporting the Westside United Food Pantry Network. And we are also starting a similar collaborative in the Austin community right now with the Austin Eats Food Assistance Work Group, which is supported by Austin Coming Together and the efforts of Austin Eats. So it's really cool to see this work kind of happening alongside each other. And I think there's some definite learning that could happen between the Austin and Garfield Park groups too. So our coalitions have had different goals over the years. Really, we just try to meet whatever needs are present and pressing at the time, right? So it's been everything from evaluation and data analysis support to providing trainings on local food purchasing and cultural humility, volunteer support. We've helped build out websites. So it really is just kind of meeting people where they're at, seeing where the needs are, and then coming together to figure out, all right, how do we meet those needs and how do we bring in additional resources to support these needs? So super excited to continue that process with this group.
Yeah, we've really been lucky to get Megan's help on this. Me and Angela have always been appreciative of it, and I think that is just a great segue to say, what do you enjoy the most about working on the West Side?
For me, it's the spirit and the lived knowledge. I have learned absolutely everything I know about gardening and a lot of what I know about food in general on the west side of Chicago. Surprisingly, even before I met Angela, who is a wonderful mentor, I had a mentor in this space. Her name's Nita, Miss Nita, Nita Haley Gamble. Those of you that work in Humboldt Park or West Humboldt Park probably know that name the same way people across the west side know Angela's name. But she runs the West Humboldt Park Farmers Market and Ujima Community Garden. So while I was working for the Development Council, she taught me how to grow food and flowers. I spent a ton of time with her in that space. When I met her, I didn't even know the difference between like a weed and a real plant. I remember like being in the garden, terrified that I was going to pull up all of her hard work the first time I got out there. Now I know the difference. Now I have, three of my own raised beds in my backyard and like countless planters and flower pots scattered all over my yard. And it's become a real passion of mine. And there is just so much knowledge to be gleaned. And You know, I have really enjoyed learning alongside experts in the field. So I would say that that has been my favorite part for sure.
Well, my favorite part, and I'm not sure if this analogy would truly reach anybody, but it's like flying a plane. And when the steward stands up before you and start giving you all those emergency procedures and instructions that you would need to follow, I consider it like that. The mask, the air mask has dropped, and I'm going to put my mask on so I can start to help others in my community. That's what I love about the work. It helps me to get up in the morning and be eager to come and receive community in the work that I do.
And I'm going to transition here to what are you both hoping to see will happen with the Food Pantry Network?
That line of communication busting wide open, and not just across Garfield Park, but across the city of Chicago. Again, our food pantries do massive amounts of work. You go to a food pantry and community, and you can see a line wrapped around the corner, and you can go in and you see five people operating, working diligently in the trenches to get that line down and not ceasing in the work that they're doing until that line is gone and all those families leave with food to take home for their family's table. That's my hope to see with this Food Network work with the food pantries.
Agreed. And it's very clear to me that the solutions to accessing food and building community food systems lie within community. You know, the grassroots organizations doing the work, the pantry coalitions, they know what the solutions are. We've always had the intention of bringing pantries and community members together to share resources, uplift assets, coordinate efforts, and meet gaps, ultimately increasing impact. And we've been building these tables for many years and have found them extremely successful and effective in reclaiming food, land, and power. And our intention is to continue that work and build upon the existing work that's happening in Garfield Park without recreating the wheel.
Thank you, Megan and Angela, for sharing your perspectives about the Food Pantry Network. I'm going to transition now to activations of Snap and Link at the Save-A-Lot in Garfield Park. So Matthew and Angela will be speaking to this. Um, Angela and Matthew, what led to the experimental station and Garfield Park Community Council to work closely together?
Well, I'll take that. That neighborhood market that we stood up 14 years ago. Kudos to Garfield Park for having again hyperlocal produce for 14 years to be able to stand it up and serve it out to community. I think is simply amazing. No, the work has not been easy always, but it has been for us here at GPCC a labor of love. We arrested a corner in Garfield Park that was blighted with deleterious activity. We went straight forward in, dropped down wood chips, and started to sell produce right then and there in the open air. Over these 14 years, I'm going to say we were fortunate enough to catch the eye of the ICNC to build a food and beverage incubator right there on the spot. What a best way to keep that market going. Now we have a beautiful play plaza. We have a wash and pack kitchen with a huge industrial kitchen where we can go in and prep and get ready for our market without having to slug coolers through the community to stand that produce up and have it served out to community. Now it gets rolled out on a cart and it looks like a girl dressed up to go out and have a good time with the community, looking gorgeous, all shined up and beautiful, and welcoming to the buyers that come into the market. These are the things that keeps me going in this work. Matthew?
Yeah, and you know, if we were talking real estate, you'd hear people talk about location, location, location. When we're talking this, it's community, community, community. And that's why we got involved, right? When you think about programs like Link Match, and I love Link Match, but I'm not going to go down that path right now. The reason that experimental station got involved with GPCC was community building. It was around finding an organization that truly cared and that wanted to grow and that wanted to find ways to do more for the people that live there. So, you know, first connecting to those farmers markets that Angela was talking about, to one of the first out there that really did an effective mobile solution with Muzz Mobile. Just and then working with stores in the community to try to find ways not just to match. The match is important, and again, love it. It's what I do, but that is almost secondary. You have to have the people that care and the community building spirit that I think Angela, Eleanor, you have, everyone on this call, but GPCC is what drew us to that community first, because it really was around community building and finding ways to do better through a number of different sources. So thanks, Eleanor.
Yeah, so you said some about with for local stores, and so Save a Lot is what has your experience been working with Save a Lot to promote Link Up in Garfield Park?
So I can start. So having a store, in a food desert, food apartheid, insert term here, an area that they do not have the ability to get to a shopping location is so important. And I think, again, kudos to GPCC for working with any stores and any groups and anyone that they can to have an opportunity for people to shop. I think when Save a Lot, and specifically when they were purchased again by that the group Yellow Banana that came in to restore the Save a Lot, when they came in, what we liked about them, and in a very similar way to what I was said before, was a group that was talking about, hey, we want to do better. We want to make sure that we can have food available, and immediately started talking about we want to make sure that SNAP is available at the store, and we want to expand that as far as possible. How do we do that? They didn't know every answer, but they knew to ask the question, and I respected that. So when we were able to talk to them together with GBCC about, well, let's talk about matching program. Let's talk about opportunities to get into that space. We've been really, really pleased with where they've wanted to go. Now, don't get me wrong. Going into any new store, new group, there are challenges. And I would be lying to you if I said that there weren't challenges there. But what I like to see is that month over month, we've seen growth. I think the management team and the team that's there are continuing to be really open to learning. And so whether it's Raja, who you saw in that first picture, of the presentation, she's out there quite a bit and talking to people. One of the other people from our team today, Allison, is actually going to be out at the store today doing a little drop in and just seeing if there's ways we can help. So as long as people are willing to work together, I think we can make almost anything work. But yeah, a couple little challenges, but we're really excited because it's in this space, and the willingness to work with GPCC and us has been wonderful. Angela?
I don't want to speak so much about Save a Lot, the brand, but I do want to speak about the group behind the Save a Lot brand, which is the Yellow Banana. Yes, it's truly been a struggle for them to come into community carrying that brand, realizing what that brand has meant to community, but to have them to stand steadfast to try to prove and show themselves as good neighbors. They're already always ready to address any issues that we go to them about in relationship to food in the community. We're having this event. What can you contribute? They're there and ready to present what they're able to provide. What about a community advisory committee so we can tell you all about all of the things that the community think that you're doing wrong. We're open to having a community advisory committee. Please come and tell us what you all feel that we're not getting right so we can get it right. I'm going to kind of lay into Yellow Banana and say, I thank you for coming and reopening a sheltered store in the community so that we would at least have one. Save a Lot right now is the only grocery store, brand named grocery store that we have in our community. A lot of families do not like to go into a liquor store to buy their produce because they're carrying their babies. Sometimes you go in there and they're smoking, which they're not supposed to. They may even be drinking. They don't want to expose those type of things to their children. But Save a Lot waded through the water. Yellow Banana has stood up a very clean, well lit, wonderful parking lot and a secure environment for the residents of my community, including myself, to be able to go to and to shop and make the family purchases that I need to for my family.
Angela, if I could just add one other thing as well. Thank you for all of that. I also like the that community connection. Every time that we've talked about, hey, can we table there? Can we come in and help? The answer is just yes. It's not, oh, what are you going to bring? What are you going to? It's just yes. And Megan Lurie and the team there, it's been fantastic. And we've all gone there and we've just, the answer of being yes. Like when, hey, can we help? Can we do something? When you can find partners that say yes first and then figure out the deed, that's fantastic. So thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna wrap up this discussion and focusing with Matthew on what differences have you really seen when working in neighborhoods that are community focused versus less engaged with their community in support of food access?
I, I can't overstate the importance of that. It's night and day. It's a step above that. Whatever a step above night and day difference would be, that's what this is. You can have the best program in the world. I personally think ours is pretty darn good, but you can have the best program in the world. No issues, the easiest thing to use. And if people don't know about it, if you don't have community partners that can help to teach and to educate and to make people feel welcome too, we talk about food access, and then sometimes you get into real issues where it's food access, but it's only for local, organic, sustainably stored. I love all those things. I would love us all to get there. Sometimes the big difference is moving from a candy bar to an apple, or talking to someone about, we understand you need to get core calories on the table in order to survive. We just want to welcome you to do that a little bit smarter, help your money go a little bit further. We want to welcome you to eating a little bit healthier and to switching a few things out. And you can't do that in a vacuum. You have to have community groups that are doing that. You have to have the community around you. And that is something that I just can't praise Garfield Park Community Council. To Angela's point, Yellow Banana, Lori Children, like we have really had great luck there where we have brought people together to help to do that. Once we get that core down, great. Then yes, let's give them recipe cards and teach them how to cook a little bit. Let's take those next steps. But sometimes people skip right past that first step of, you just have to welcome people there. You have to have a store. You have to have a place to buy, or a farmer's market, or Muzz Mobile, all those great things. You have to have a place to buy. You have to welcome them. You have to bring them on this journey with you, and then you can take all those other steps. So it has been an absolute game changer to have groups like GPCC and those around you to do this.
Thank you very much, Matthew and Angela. That discussion was great to cover about the importance of community and supporting one another. I'm going to transition over to talking with LaShawn and Angela. This is focused around Finding Justice Garden, who has recently joined the Garfield Park Garden Network, and really going from there. So, Angela, what led the Garfield Park Garden Network to be created, and what needs of the community are actively working to be met?
What led to us creating the Garfield Park Garden Network is funny. I had a garden, people came and saw it, and everybody wanted one. Even though I told them it's not as easy as it looks. You know, you come and you see everything growing and flourishing so beautiful, but you don't see my muddy boots under my bed because I'm too tired to take a shower before I lay down to go to sleep. But here at GBC, we had an opportunity through grant funding to actually take vacant lots in Chicago and put community gardens on them. So we deployed out in the community to find block clubs, churches, just residents that had the desire to want to produce. I'm not going to just lean in the food because we produce beautiful flowers in most of our gardens as well. And if you could, please go out, come to Garfield Park and see some of these gardens. You will be absolutely delighted. But we corralled the community, identified locations. With the help of Green Corps, we installed actually 32 gardens across Garfield Park. But just as I said earlier, gardening comes with a big W. It's work. It's not like you can put those raised beds and soil in and things are going to produce themselves naturally. You have to put in to get out. So some of those gardens were no longer attended to, but we kept our shoulder to the wheel and continued to forge forward till the year that we were producing so much food, we had to figure out a way to ensure that it gets to the community where we were under a disadvantage. At least at that time, we had a Aldi's. There was a couple of jewels still around, but since that time has changed, which brought us to stand up our neighborhood market. And as mentioned, it's been there for 14 years, and we're continuing to produce food. LaShawn, you want to talk about your experience?
Yeah. So what led me to the Garfield Park Garden Network? Joining the Garfield Park Garden Network felt like a natural step because the work we do at Finding Justice Flower and Vegetable Garden is rooted in collaboration and strengthening the local food system. The network brings together growers, gardeners, and community leaders who are all working towards similar goals: improving food access, sharing knowledge, and supporting neighborhood based agriculture. Being part of the network allows us to build relationships with other growers, exchange resources and ideas, and collectively advocate for the needs of urban farmers on the West Side. It's also important to me that we create spaces where growers can learn from one another and support each other's growth. No one farm can solve food access challenges alone, but when we work together, share what we know, and coordinate our efforts, we can build a stronger and more resilient food system for our communities.
Thank you for sharing that, LaShawn. Where you both are community members in the community, I would love to highlight the perspective of what you enjoy the most about working within your community that you live in.
Yeah, working in the community that I live allows me to see the direct impact of the work every day. I enjoy building real relationships with neighbors and watching people reconnect with fresh food, the land, and each other. When residents come to the farm, volunteer, pick up produce, or bring their children to learn where food comes from, it reminds me that this work is about more than farming. It's about restoring health, dignity, and opportunity within our own communities. Being able to grow food and create spaces for connection right where I live makes the work deeply personal and meaningful to me.
For me, doing this work in the community kind of echoes what LaShawn has said. For me, over the years, Being in this community, I've seen children grow up and create families of their own, get qualifying careers, and yet and still come back. To me, that's been the most impactful thing. Moving on my block, looking at little Gregory play, bringing little Gregory into the gardening and having him not just get excited about the worms, but getting excited about the carrots. Whereas he's running home to have his mom to wash it off and clean it up so he can eat it. So when he comes back the next day, he can tell me just how delicious it is. It was wonderful in this last 14 years when Gregory came back to me and said, "Here's my kid. And I want you to teach him the things that you taught me because it has helped me to become a valuable person for and in my community." That's the thing that's most impactful for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Angela. And I think that really leads me to my last question that really it is every panelist has shown this in passion in the work, but I want to ask, where does your passion for this important work within the West Side originate?
I would say this passion for this work in this community, and specifically as a gardener, and I'm not going deep, but I'm sharing at this time. It came from my father and my grandmother. My grandmother lived in Arkansas and she was an avid farmer. I would love to go to my grandma's in the summertime and share time with her, getting up early in the morning and going out and picking peas. That was a great thing. Now I have my own garden that I can go out and pick peas that I still get from Arkansas. And my father here in the city of Chicago, as a little girl and the youngest girl of my six siblings that I had, my job was to go outside and be with daddy in the garden. At that time, it was not that pleasurable, but in losing my father and being connected to the Fulton Street flower and vegetable garden, it became endeared to me to ensure that that garden was brought to life and breathed life into the community that it existed in. And it is truly, to this day, doing just that. And for me, it helps keep the memory of my father alive.
Thank you, Angela, for sharing that. To the point of seeds from Arkansas, Angela introduced me to these lady peas. If you don't know about the lady peas, come visit us and we'll show you what it's about. But to answer the question, my passion for this work on the West Side comes from both personal experience and what I see happening in my community every day. After dealing with my own health challenges, I began paying closer attention to the connection between food, health, and access. At the same time, I saw that many neighbors on the West Side had limited access to fresh, nutritious food and very few spaces where people could reconnect to the land and with each other. The realization pushed me to start growing food, not just for myself, but for my community. Over time, that effort grew into finding justice, a flower and vegetable garden. What drives me is knowing that food can be a pathway to healing, opportunity, and dignity. When people have access to fresh food and a place to gather, learn, and contribute, it strengthens the entire community. That belief continues to fuel the work we do every day.
Thank you very much to all the panelists. All I reached out to all of you, and there wasn't hesitation. Everyone wanted to get up on the mic and go on their soapbox, and there was no intention of having to stop you anywhere. It was just like it was a natural flow, and it really was a pleasure. So, now we're gonna open it up for Q&A if anyone has any specific questions.
I have a question. If we are, I think my partnership is with the Westside Health Authority and HSI. I would just like to, be more engaged with you guys because I am looking to support some food drops off to seniors that can't get around, but being able to have a wellness group where we go and drop off something to our seniors in the Austin and Garfield area.
I would suggest for you, feel free to reach out to me. My email is my first name, Angela, at dpcommunitycouncil.org. We are actually in conversations right now about how we can implement this service in the upcoming year in our program. We've found that there is a need for it, and we're, as we normally do, figuring out a way to make it happen.
Hi, I added this in the chat, but I am more than happy to connect you with Austin Eats and ACT as well to get plugged in that neighborhood. I dropped my email in the chat. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I
And
did
I
see.
want to say thank you to Sean. She invited us to the call with our youth, and our youth are excited about what's happening. And we want to see more interaction with our schools because they said their food is garbage.
A common sentiment, unfortunately.
I think I saw a question. I didn't read it thoroughly, but someone did ask, why is there only a Save-A-Lot in a community where there's no grocery store? I would probably first say, ask the grocery stores. What we got when we asked was crickets. Why did Aldi's close their doors and sneak away in the middle of the night and left our community without a grocery store in a main thoroughway where people could walk uh, a short ride to be able to address those needs? I don't know. But the work to be restorative is on the way as we are currently working, as Elidor mentioned, with the Community Grocery Store Initiative, with the Westgate Development Group to bring a grocery store to our community. And we're hopeful to have that happen in the next 2 to 5 years.
Thank you, Miss Taylor. That was my question.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Crystal Tarver. I have a community garden in South Chicago. We serve as a food access point to South Shore and South Chicago neighborhoods. We are entering our third year of growing, so we are still very new. And this is just a question more so as far as community engagement. What we have found is we have community members, they are, interested in growing food, but are like a bit timid, right? I know LaShawn spoke to there's like empowerment that comes with growing food. And so what we have found is as much as we encourage people like here, take these herbs with you, feel free to grow at home, feel free to ask questions. Do you want a plot of land here? You can grow here. What we're finding is that our community members, as interested as they are in growing, they still seem a bit like timid or intimidated as far as growing their own food. I know consistency is needed to continue to lead in that way. But I'm curious if any of the growers here have had any experience in this, and what are some things that you all recommend we do to encourage our community members, to be comfortable growing their own food and experimenting.
Yeah, I could take a first stab at it. Community engagement is really important, right? I have found personally that like it takes time, right? Building trust in a relationship takes time. You said that you've been there for 3 years. I mean, if you see a person once a day, like maybe once a week, do you trust them right away? Like that engagement and that talking to them. I have people that walk past my space every day for 2, 3 years, and it's just, hello, how you doing? When you coming over, you want this, you want that? And I'm telling you,
Mhm.
like maybe that fourth year, I got somebody to open the gate. and come inside and help me pick peppers. So I would just say consistency. And that's really the biggest thing, consistency, building that trust with the community members so they see you out there, they know you, they get to know you better, and then they like put the big toe in the water, like, I'm gonna try this, you know. And then to Angela's point, it is a lot of work, that big W she's talking about. So, you know, some people may not have the capacity, the time, the know-how, right? And those things are intimidating. So just meeting people where they're at, you know, I just find that if I'm available, you know, for a conversation, for a person to person type conversation, teaching moments, just again, consistency is what really builds that rapport.
Less on the grower front, but if I may just comment too, two things we've done. So I run a community garden up here in Uptown, and we've done some grow to give plots. And what it's actually welcomed us to be able to do is when someone does walk by and you welcome them in, to be able to just walk over to one of those plots and you know you can just grab stuff. You're not taking from someone else's garden. Like we have some plots that are just intentionally so you can grab some of that out, hand them some tomatoes, whatever that may be, let them experience sort of that joy of like, hey, you just pulled this off the plant, you get to eat it. One other thing that we've done at Experimental Station is we do some crockpot cooking classes, and we've tried to just really demystify a little bit of the you don't have to be a chef to do really good things, and kind of bring it down to, hey, we know when you're in between these two jobs, you can throw this stuff in, you can leave it low and slow, and walk away. But when you do that with some of these ingredients that LaShawn has shown you how to grow and to build, all of a sudden you start to tie together both the win and the joy of doing, and then the output that you get from it too. And so we've had some luck on those fronts. Also, if you can just clone LaShawn about, I don't know, 400 or 500 times a week, put her all around the city, that'd be great too.
I want to add a little piece here too, because a lot of it is experimentation, right? Like I almost hate to admit how many plants I've killed, right? I'm not always successful, you know. It takes time to learn, and even as I've learned, I still, you know, am not always successful and have to move things around in the bed. So, maybe framing it as more of an experiment, a learning opportunity. Sometimes it's not going to grow, and that's fine. You just try again with a different location or a different amount of water, and see what you can do. And then sometimes you just throw seeds on the ground and they grow like crazy. Sometimes it's just like that.
Hey, Matt said I could jump in, so I'm jumping in. Hi, I'm Kathy Pecora, and I worked for a lot of years with Will County Land Use Department, and I started the We Will Grow Community Garden Program and the Seniors Will Grow Backyard Garden Program. And I have recently left the county. So, these programs are now severely underfunded. And we went from 80,000 annually to 30, and the person who took over the garden program from me is now leaving for the city of Joliet. And the program is gonna, it's not looking good. So of course I want to come in and take it over somehow. So here, Megan, I'm going to start with you. I am a member of the Silver Cross Hospital Healthy Communities Commission's board, and its particular mandate is to support the zip codes that were directly impacted by its moving from its initial location on Route 6 to where it is in New Lenox. So there are communities that are low access, disinvested communities that feel the impact, but they get money annually. Did you need to tie back your ask for Lurie? I mean, was that a natural thing that they decided they wanted to invest in food, or did you have to tie it into the community needs assessment to identify they have the factual support for your ask for food?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And we're very lucky at Lurie Children's that we have a whole institute that is devoted to supporting the results of the community health needs assessment. So we have several initiatives that operate in support of those findings. So we have, violence prevention group, unintentional injury prevention. We have, of course, our food activity and nutrition team, workforce development, and others. So I am very lucky that, our hospital already has a lot of buy-in when it comes to community health and supporting health. Tying it into the community health needs assessment, I think will definitely make a good case within your own institution. And then I think seeing too the needs that are being found as we screen our patients, as well as we do those
Yes.
social influencers of health screenings, and seeing that food and accessing food is such a high need for our patient population also makes it a little bit easier to make the case that, building community food systems that we can then refer our patients into also, help support our patient population, as well as, building in the communities that we serve helps improve our communities' access to food in communities that we're seeing our highest like hospitalization rates from, which is why we're focused on the West Side.
Okay,
As
and that's
well.
perfect too. I'm also a member of the Will County MAP Collaborative Healthy Food Access Committee. So it also ties into their I plan and the groups, the communities, the zip codes, because everything's zip code and not like granular, like a census tract. And it reflects back into that. So thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yeah, of course.
Great. I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll start wrapping up.
Hi, this is Kels, Ujima Community Garden. How you guys doing?
Hey,
There's my
Vina.
mentor.
I have someone told me about this conference call, so I just thought I'd get in and say hi. I have a community garden, been around since 2008. Started with 37 garden members down to one, but it's all about eating healthy, being healthy. I don't I don't state that I'm the best of everything, but I try to do my best to make it work. And since COVID, I've been receiving and giving out food since then at my house. I still do it at my house to this day. So giving back is a good thing. That's what I enjoy and helping. So at any given time, Megan knows how to reach out to me. That's how she learned how to garden. She'll tell you about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you, Miss Nita.
We sure do.
All right. And then there was one more question from Crystal in the chat.
I was going to start speaking to this. This is something I would say that we are very actively working on. Recently had a volunteer event to help our different pantries and garden network. This is something that one of our gardens has even shared with us. They have sometimes that they have too many volunteers. So could they pass them on to us to help us? So that is something that I think we're definitely looking into.
I would say Chicago Cares is a really good place to start too. They help a lot with like group volunteer support, that corporate volunteering piece. Um, Another suggestion I have is if you don't already have this going, is creating a way for people to like sign up and register, whether that's like a simple like Google form or something more complex that's like built into a website is really, really helpful. So then you can at least have a place to guide people that are interested. A lot of conversations in community, people will be like, oh, I want to help out. So if you have like a link or a QR code that you can pass off to people so they can go ahead and register, and then you can follow up. That is really helpful too, because a lot of people want to help, but they don't know how to connect.
Volunteerism can be a tough bridge to cross. I'm not sure where funding, whichever amount it is, there's no dollar too small. We take pennies, nickels, and dimes. Uh, but I would ask those folks that are contributing anyway and kind of spin it as let's create a specific opportunity for you and your team to come out and help us with something specifically that would help that garden to be viable for that year. We recently hosted, just about a week ago, we had a seed and sip. And what that was is we invited gardeners into our greenhouse. We provided the seed starting trays, we provided the soil, and we even provided the seeds. And we had a list of things that we know we need to grow, not just only for our personal consumption, but for the community consumption. And that night, we were able to get many hands make the work light. We got nearly 40 trays of a variety of vegetables planted. And I did check up on them just this morning, and most of them babies are popping out. So we're going to have a transplanting sip probably in a few weeks so we can get those things pumped up and ready to get them out in the gardens in the community.
Well, that's such a great place to stop for today. Thank you all so much for presenting and sharing all the amazing partnerships and collaborations and successes you all have been having in Garfield Park. Recognizing that there was a lot of issues to work with and continue to be, but that through sharing resources, knowledge, care, a lot can get done. So thank you all for sharing all of that experience today. I'm going to share right now a survey for get people's reactions to the session today. And so we're always trying to learn from each one to see if over time how we can help improve what we're offering. So starting that now. So folks who are still on, if they could go ahead and fill that out, that'd be really great. It's just a handful of questions. And then very much appreciation. Also wanted to share the appreciation for our interpreters and captioners today and through all of the sessions. Such a valuable skill to share with all of us as well. And I guess there were tips on pulling things from the chat and a lot of great follow-ups. And then also want to highlight again, tomorrow we're having our in-person session for the summit at the South Shore Cultural Center. Very excited. I think several folks here are going to be there for sure, as well as vending and having tables with more resources. So please come tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you all. We have a lot of awesome vendors who'll be serving up great food for folks. So again, all appreciations and thank yous to everyone on the panel and everybody participating.